there guys, it's Joey. So for this week's I Can't Witch Without, we are looking at violets. So the disclaimer for the beginning of this video, as always, the I Can't Witch Without series is not to say that you cannot be a witch without any particular item. It is just looking at different things which I use regularly within my practice. Okay, and apologies secondly for the lateness of the video and the fact there won't be many videos this week. There are multiple reasons. The main cause of it is that we're having work done on the house, which means that there are people in and out of the house, including the landlords, which means that anything overtly witchy has to be put away, which makes everything all that more difficult for me, because I have to get stuff out and put it away and just to do videos, and crafting is slightly hindered as well, a little bit, but there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of people around, and with it being school holidays, the church has decided to start giving some sort of kids thing so many times a week, which means from 8 AM most mornings there's a load of screaming children right outside, which I could have done without, and doesn't make for great video recording even with all the windows shut up. So those are the two main reasons. Also, I've had to move my computer into this room, so if there's a faint humming in the background, I apologise. I don't know whether the camera's going to pick it up or not. I'm hoping not. But there you go. That's been my week. Onwards! So, this week we're looking at violets. We start off with 2 points of reference. Excuse me. And the first one being Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. The second being the Herbal Compendium by Paul Beryl. And we use these as a starting off point, as a point of reference. I think it's good to have sort of a physical reference point that people can go to following the video if they wish. And I think most people will have Cunningham's book, and if not, it's readily accessible. The Compendium of Herbal Magic is pretty available too. I will, hang on, I'll show you that one. There you go. It's well worth getting if you can find it. Right. So, Cunningham's book. Gender feminine, planet Venus, element water, deity Venus, powers of protection, luck, love, lust, wishes, peace and healing. Magical uses. When the flowers are carried, they offer protection against wicked spirits and bring changes in luck and fortune. Mixed with lavender, they are a powerful love stimulant and also arouse lust. If you gather the first violet in spring, your dearest wish will be granted. Ancient Greeks wore the violet to calm tempers and induce sleep. Violets fashioned into a chaplet and placed on the head cure headaches and dizziness, and the leaves worn in a green sachet will help wounds to heal and prevent evil spirits from making wounds worse. So there you go. As always, some information, a starting point, but not a huge amount from the Cunningham book. There's not a huge amount in either of them, unfortunately, about the flowers, so I've got a little bit further sort of reference point that we'll read afterwards. Right, so more interestingly, in the Herbal Compendium by Paul Beryl, violets are again given to Venus, but they're also known here as a funeral herb, herb of immortality, and invocational to Io and Zeus. Lore. Violets are said to have originated from the nymph Io, a daughter of the river god Inachus. Io, sometimes related to Isis, and the god Zeus were developing a romance when Hera became so jealous that she cast a spell and changed Io into a heifer, cow. Poor Io was left with grass to munch and a god who really loved women rather than cows. In his compassion, according to some versions, Zeus changed her not back into a young woman, but the violet. There are multiple versions of this story, because I'm fairly certain in the stories I've read that Io was reluctant and didn't want anything to do with Zeus. Violets, like primroses, have been associated with death, especially with the death of the young. This feeling has been constantly expressed from early times. We also read in Mrs. Greaves' A Modern Herbal that violets were mentioned frequently by Homer and Virgil, were used by Athenians to moderate anger, to procure sleep, and to comfort and strengthen the heart. Usage. One of the most difficult pains to ease is that of a parent who has lost a child. Violets are said to bring comfort to a grieving heart and are well suited for planting upon a child's grave. They are used within rituals of death and dying, or placed on the altar whenever prayers are offered to keep the memory of the child alive. Violet also offers us the virtues of modesty, simplicity, serenity, and peace. And they are a source of inspiration and good fortune for women. Although not so classified, we may use blooms as a green herb by sprinkling them on a salad. Whether we use this as an oil or place the flowers in small vases, there is much magic to be had in these simple flowers. They were once associated with the spring equinox and were steeped in the milk of goats to be used as a cosmetic to increase a woman's beauty and appeal. And then a little bit further information from the Herbal Riot Tumblr page, associated with Venus, Zeus, and water. Again, it talks about using it to cure anger as well as headaches and dizziness. Violets are mixed with lavender, apple blossom, yarrow, and roses in love potion. The leaf is protection from all evil. Mixed with lavender, the flowers are a powerful love stimulant and arouse lust. And we've talked a little bit about the death aspect. Okay. Draws prophetic dreaming and visions, stimulating creativity and promotes peace. Violet leaf protects from all evil. Keep a spray of violets on the altar to enhance night magic. Wear the leaves in a green sachet to heal wounds, which we've already heard. According to the medieval doctrine of signatures, every plant was put on this earth by God for the use of mankind. The violet has long been revered as sweet-smelling yet humble, whose leaves are shaped exactly like hearts. Many people wore a violet leaf in their shoe for 7 days in the belief that that would help them find a new lover. To do a triple strength spell, some folks use 3 violet leaves and wear them for 21 days. And then a sonnet by William Shakespeare. Goodness, I've not had much sleep, you have to apologise. You have to bear with me. The forward violet thus did I chide, sweet thief, whence did thou steal thy sweet that smells, if not from my love's breath? The purple pride, which on thy soft cheek for complexion dwells, in my love's vein thou hast too grossly died. Can also be used in luck, money, protection, faithfulness, love, wish, peace, healing magic, especially healing magic after breakup relationships. The leaves absorb the ill will and negative emotions. It is said that if you dream of violets, your life is about to change for the better. So there you go. So in front of you, I do have some violet that I wildcrafted myself. I will try and get a purple, hang on, let's get a little dried flower. Can we get a big dried flower? It's a little bit difficult to see them, because they dry, they're small anyway, and then they dry really quite small. And beautiful though. And then here is one of my lunar oils that I created when violets were freshly wild crafted and harvested and dried in the dehydrator. And I used raw rose quartz, as you can see, and imbued the oil in there. I may top it up so it just carries on imbuing. It's a really beautiful way to create a violet oil. I don't know if you can get an essential oil. I know you can get a fragrance oil. The fragrance oils are like the heavily synthetic, not very nice versions. I've got a feeling a violet essential oil, if it exists, will be very expensive. I've got a feeling it's one of those. I've not seen one at least, so I'm guessing it's one of the expensive ones. Okay, so my feelings on violet flowers. Okay, they are perhaps a little bit of a spring flower in terms of when they're growing, and so for that purpose you might be thinking this is a little bit of an odd choice as we are approaching Lunar, the first harvest. Why have you chosen violets? And for me, coming up into this particular energy of Lunar, and it can be to do with the movements of Venus, maybe, with this plant being aligned with Venus and water and emotion, but there has been a really strong undercurrent of all things love related recently, and it has been at the forefront of what I perceive to be the magical energies that are around right now. It's like there's been this climate, this environment for love and lust magic, and violet is perhaps, in my mind, the love flower. I know, I said the love flower above rose in my personal feeling. Rose has this cultural significance that we've applied to it over time, over history, and it has that sort of going back through time, and that energy becomes bound to the language of roses. And roses I love and use happily within love magic of all kinds. Violets, however, have this sort of nature-given gift of being symbolic for love matters, given that they are heart-shaped. There's also an element of the spiritual with them being purple, which I love, because it brings on a spiritual love energy as well as a physical love energy. And they just sort of radiate love. There's a little bit of a fae element as well. If you have seen them growing, and particularly when I saw them this year, in previous years there hadn't been hardly any that I had noticed, and I just left them alone because there weren't enough to harvest. This year, everywhere, they covered certain areas of the garden. There were hundreds of them, and they just sprung up. One minute they weren't there, and then the next minute they were everywhere, and they were beautiful. It was like a field of violets, and I was like, that's incredible. And it was like something very magical, something out of a fairy tale, out of suddenly overnight the flowers sprung up and they were everywhere. And it's very much one of those plants, you can imagine the fae moving in and out of them. You can imagine them dancing and lovemaking and all that sort of energy weaved into the plant. It's very much bound into earth magic, which is very much where I am right now, which is sort of reading and researching again, and playing with earth magic and earth medicine and hedge witchery. And to me, I think violet is a little bit more perhaps of a love herb in many, many different ways. And I did touch upon the fact that it's used to honour the past memory of a child that's passed on by a parent. And for most parents, they love their children unconditionally. And such a loss is considered the most devastating loss that there is to be had from one which a heart has the most trouble healing and finding solace. And that amount of sadness comes from the pureness of the love involved. So the love element is still an underpresent theme even within the other given energies and purposes of the violet flower. It also ties a little bit into the Fae energy, for childlike energy is perhaps the closest to the Fae, arguably. The mixture of violet and lavender is something which is well documented as a simple but effective love and lust combination. It's a combination I'm going to be utilising in the Working Witch video, which I will record after this and will follow on from this, so it'll have the same theme. And it's interesting when you think about it that lavender can be used for love magic, but generally speaking your first initial impression is usually peace, like peace and sleep and tranquility. So it's very, very interesting that the combination of violet and lavender revs up the sex drive like crazy, pulls love in. It's just like, give it to me, give me that love, give it to me, oh yeah, or something like that. That's how the two plants sort of interact with each other. It's like they're perfectly innocent by themselves, and then they get together and all naughtiness gets on. They're like best mates out on the town, raising mischief. Very much two Fae plants get together and all things go crazy. I amuse myself. If I don't amuse anyone else, at least I amuse myself. Interesting how the energy of the plants actually seems to almost shift when it comes into contact with lavender as well. The two harmonise and create this sort of energy pull, energy vortex if you like, that just pulls in love magic, and it works on a lust level. And it's almost one of those strange otherworldly things when the two get together and shift their energy up. It's magic. It's just pure magic how the two combine and create this incredible love stimulant. There are other suggestions, of course, that you can add it to yarrow and rose. Now, yarrow is a herb of August, and I nearly chose yarrow today, but I decided to go with violet in the end. So if you wanted to mix something that was very seasonal with violet, and you had a little bit of violet oil or a little bit of the violet plant, then you can mix it with yarrow really effectively for like a love mixture, a love draw mixture at this time of the year. Because yarrow has a little bit of a spice and a sizzle. It's associated very much with, well, midsummer and Lughnasadh and the season of August. And that will create a little bit of a hotter version, if you like. It's interesting how violets by some have been seen to be calming, particularly in the Greek, in the Greek pantheon. I wonder if it's because the Greek pantheon is one that I know a lot about but never connect to on a spiritual sense, that it just doesn't resonate for me. It's interesting because I think Greek is probably the one I've studied the most and know the myths and all that good stuff intellectually, but spiritually it never speaks to me. I think on some level I must be, I must, on my life path, at least for this life path, probably done with the Greek side of things. It's interesting because even with the Egyptian stuff, which I've studied quite a lot as well, I get that energy. If I try to connect to that idea, that feeling, I get a feeling and a sense of that energy. But with the Greek stuff, not so much. It just doesn't hit me. And I've said that now, and I'll have someone show up. You watch. Because I said it. Oh, right, well, I'll show up then. It'll be Athena if it's anybody, I imagine. But generally speaking, this herb doesn't give off a hugely peaceful vibe to me. I can understand it, but then you couple it with another herb which is deeply peaceful, and it becomes naughtiness incarnate. I don't know, it feels too cheeky to me to ever be peaceful. It's not a herb that I would go to for peace. Probably lavender by itself, fair enough, but the two combined are the cheekiest, naughtiest pair of flowers when they get together, and they have that naughty fayness to them as well. That sort of illicit naughtiness. And fae are presented as beautiful, but they can be quite tricky and quite dangerous and even deadly. They can be seductive, and that's how I feel about violet. It's very much this very sweet, innocent looking flower, but it's deceptively sweet looking. I think when you start to connect to the energy, it's very naughty, and it's in a good way, in the best way. And that's how it strikes me. It's probably my go-to love/lust herb flower. I think it works wonderfully. And in terms of protective magic, it's not something I would necessarily go to, but if you wanted a flower that would protect you by deceiving things that were coming your way. So say you felt that you were coming under psychic attack, for example, and you wanted to deflect that with sweetness, because then it wouldn't stick to you. So the idea of the psychic attack that has been sent is to amplify negative energy within your space, and so anything you say that's negative will get tripled. That's a form of psychic attack. Violet is a really wonderful antidote to that sort of thing, because basically you are using its sweet deflection, if you like, and keeping yourself sweet and keeping your mind on things that are positive and matter, and basically becomes like a sweet deflection field, if that makes sense. It's one of those. I can see it being used in protective work that way. Generally speaking, though, in protective magic, it wouldn't be my first choice. I think you could do love magic of a protective form with it, absolutely. If you wanted to do a protection on your relationship, say somebody was trying to destroy your relationship with someone, with your partner, it is something that you could use to protect their energies interfering with your relationship. Or if you'd been vying for the same single partner, it's a form of protection and luring that you could do all in one. The ethics and all of that of that particular thing, of course, are up to the individual and how they personally feel about it. But yeah, in terms of protective magic in general, it's not my first choice, but there are certain situations which would merit it. Keeping it away from your relationship and your heart. Now, if you needed to heal and protect your broken heart, lavender might be the choice, because it can have a uplifting sense to your love drive and your sex drive. So what I mean by this in terms of a healing and protective flower herb in terms of a broken heart is quite often when you're heartbroken, you get to the point where you feel like, oh, I'm never going to love again, and no one's ever going to love me, and I'm not deserving of, and it's all that sort of putting yourself down, and your sex drive might dive and fall apart, and your self-worth and your self-love is taking a hit, obviously, because breakups are hard. Violet would be the perfect antidote to that, because it's going to be like healing you up and taking you back to a place where you're like, you know what, I do deserve it. I do deserve to be loved, and my heart needs to be healed, and I'm going to go out, I'm going to be the best version of me I can be. I'm going to heal up, I'm going to love myself first, and then I will draw love to me, because that's how you draw stuff to you. You don't put it out, you just basically draw what you are to you. It's not about putting a vibration out, it's about how your vibration is that draws the same energies and things towards you. So with regards to that sort of healing and protective work, very much so. In terms of prophetic dreaming, I would tie that all up again in the l'amour department. I think it would be wonderful for dreaming of new loves and things of that nature. So that is it for this week's I Can't Witch Without. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry it's late, and we shall endeavour to utilise Violet in the next Working Witch video. Many blessings.